It's clearly he's right on the button as far as articulating something much bigger than us, because a transformative leadership requires that sort of grand vision, which is not there in the current election, and it hasn't been for quite a long time in South Africa, and indeed in most of the African countries, except probably for Ethiopia, which has been having a wonderful ride in terms of GDP growth of over 7%. And by the way, you need something in the neighborhood of 7 to 10% to actually transform a nation from a poorer economy into a middle income economy, or from a middle income to a higher income economy. So South Africa and indeed even Nigeria haven't been carrying the rest of African continent in terms of the economic impact. And you need to do that, and there has to be bold, large, transformative infrastructural projects that need to come into play, because without that catalytic factor, the economies, I'm talking about South Africa and Nigeria, wouldn't move the needle. 2% or sub 2% growth is not something that we can be proud of.
So how then can the country position to restructure or to reignite this growth?
I think the problem in the South African political scene appears to be a baggage from the past. ANC has been in leadership role since democracy came into South Africa, and it still continues to enjoy an over 50% in parliament. Even though EFF as a new party is taking a bit of the slice, and Democratic Alliance is just somewhere there flailing along. Unless one of the two opposition parties, or combined, have something grand that would make them shift the balance, we will not see a huge transformative vision, because ANC, even with Cyril Ramaphosa, whom one would consider as a business-oriented person, and have exhibited a certain kind of leadership in the business sphere, one would expect something grander than what we are hearing these days in the South African political scene. Economy matters. At the end of the day, it is how you would impact the lives of the average citizen.
All right, then beyond the economy, there's been other topics that have been leading the conversation. We've heard about inequality in there. We talked about corruption, youth unemployment, all this coming in as a country that is looking to position for greater achievements in the future. How should they position in this aspect?
The cleansing part, meaning the corruption issue, need to be tackled head on. I think Cyril had articulated that, even though the stench is closer to ANC than the other parties. Democratic Alliance is taking that as a campaign issue. With EFF, it's the emancipation. It's basically trying to close the gaps between blacks and whites in South Africa. But that cannot be a sustainable political issue that one can actually make a difference with. So there has to be something that would cut across the divide, and that is where you'd actually articulate things that would lift everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats, sort of an anecdote. And that has not been articulated in this election, unfortunately.
All right, looking at now the voter turnout, especially for the young people in South Africa. I'm looking at the stats from the Independent Electoral Commission here, and I'm looking at people between the ages of 18 and 19, just very minimal, and people between the ages of 20 and 29, just about, of the 26.7 million voters, we're seeing that age bracket is just about, give or take, about 5-point-something million. Meanwhile, the largest share of voters in these elections, we're seeing about 6 million voters, 6.5 million voters from people aged between 30 and 39, and then 40 and 49, taking the huge chunk. When you look at how those age range and how they understand the issues in there, how do you think this is going to inform the voting patterns?
The voting pattern, there are two issues in South Africa. One is actually that of general voter apathy. Even though the turnout in South Africa is actually, if one looks at it from the Western perspective, it's huge. The last elections was around 69 or 70%, and this election, there is a prediction that if it mirrors the last election, then it would still have what one would consider as a high turnout. However, with the demographics as listed, it looks like it's going to be same old, because the greater majority of the voters that have registered are in the older or in the middle age to older segment of the population. So that demographic, has a certain behavior that hardly changes. I think one would like to see more of the millennials participating actively and turning out in a higher proportion. Then you might see surprises. But as far as some of the polls I have seen are concerned, it appears that it's probably going to be turn out to be about the same, with EFF gaining a few more seats.
All right, then. Let me get to another issue that has been that was actually discussed yesterday on Closing Bell, where we had the Nigerian the deputy director of the Nigerian Chamber of South Africa, Nigeria South Africa Chamber of Commerce. He came around and he was talking about the fact that when you look at how the things are skewed when it comes to business, we have way more South African businesses playing in Nigeria, and we're trying to see how we can get more Nigerian businesses getting to South Africa. What would you think is the top issues for businesses, in dealing Nigerian businesses in looking into South Africa?
Nigerian businesses have, so I'm now talking about the local businesses. Nigerian businesses have always been focused more locally than venturing out, even within our territory, meaning West Africa, let alone going all the way to South Africa. If you have forayed into South Africa, I know one media house that went and got burnt and came back. Aliko Dangote had made a mining or cement business acquisition in South Africa. But other than that, most of our businesses do not go beyond the immediate. Two things might be attributed to that. One is the fact that you look at return, and the returns in Nigeria, as risky as doing business in Nigeria is, the returns are much higher compared to, say, South Africa. So you would see more companies coming from South Africa than Nigerian companies going to South Africa. The second thing is that SA is more mature in terms of development, and so the opportunities are hard to find. So you need a lot more capital to get an average return. So if you have that sort of capital, deploying it in Nigeria would actually yield you a lot more. So those might be the reasons why we may not have seen that. But on a higher ground, I think one would also look at how close we are nation to nation politically. Because in some cases, when presidents travel to countries, they also tend to take the business community along with them. We haven't in Nigeria done that. I think Obasanjo used to do that. Okay. However, I don't see that happening lately, because that also encourages the business community in Nigeria to explore the other side of things.
All right, then. Thank you so much for your contributions on this show. Very insightful contribution.